I thought we'd go over test one. I should have sent all of you your grades back, at least everyone who sent theirs in. If you didn't get yours back and you sent me one, just send me an email, let me know. First, there were 7 questions plus an extra credit one, worth about 14 points each. And I'll go through each one of them, tell you kind of my expectations, what the class overall was as for answering them, and maybe give more guidance. Overall, I think most of you did pretty well on the test. I haven't done the statistics for it, but I think like the lowest grade was in the 70s and the highest grade was over 100, and most people fell somewhere in the mid 80s, I want to say, or low to mid 80s. So the first one, I think most people got this right. What's the difference between a threat and a promise? There is a large portion of the chapter in the art of strategy on this. Most of you got it. I think the one thing that most people got wrong was which is more costly, a threat or a promise. A threat is way less costly than a promise, mostly because a threat you don't have to fulfill unless someone doesn't do what you want to do, right? And as long as someone, but you do have to fulfill a promise if they do what you want to do. So like you're losing revenue if they do what you want them to do. The second one, most people got 12 points on this one because I thought it was a softball question, and people would get 14 points on the question if they gave me responses that no one else gave. And some people, like some people just you gave me like the regular interview questions, which are fine, but some people gave me some really unique and interesting questions. I don't have them in front of me, but they were really great, and those people got the full credit. So the third question, there was a little bit more contention on. Like, let's say that you're scouting locations to open a new coffee shop along Route 50. Which location is most preferential and why? And no one got this explicitly, at least lots of people got the question right, but no one answered it exactly how I wanted them to answer it, which was fine, because most of you got the right answers anyway. But remember the median voter theorem. You have people on either spot. And there are, like, let's say there's residential homes out here in the edges. And you can capture a lot of these customers, or hope to capture them. But most of the activity is right here in the middle. This is where most of the marginal people are. And so if one major business center is here, like a strip mall or whatever, you want more businesses close to it to capture everyone who's coming in to here, instead of being out here on the fringes. Because if you think of with a coffee shop, while it's true there's more substitutes here, there's a stronger substitute in residential areas because people can make coffee at home. And so why would they go out to like a Starbucks a few blocks from their house if they live in a residential district when they can just like buy the Starbucks coffee and make it at home? All right, number 4, are food trucks on average safe to eat at? Why or why not? And how do discounts factor into this? Most of you got this right. Food trucks are generally safe because of reputational constraints. And also, you need to, if you want to continually serve your customers and be around for a while, you need to serve safe food, because if you're not serving safe food, people won't come back. How do discount rates factor in this? If you have a really high discount rate, you worry more about the present than the future. And so if you're a business operator, you're going to want to cheat on food safety now, that way to earn immediate profits and then leave the market, because you don't care about what's happening in the future. A lot of people either didn't acknowledge the discount rates at all, or they thought about financial discount rates, which is in the same vein, but not exactly what I was looking for. The most missed question was number 5. Consider it this game. A lot of people told me, well, there's 2 perfect or pure strategies and no mixed strategies, or like there's no point in playing the game. I would argue that a lot of the games you play every day have no actual payoffs. because if you think about every choice set you have, every choice is a game. And like you can't know the immediate payoff to any one of them relative to all the other choice sets that you have. So you're always playing zero-sum games like this. But in this framework, there are 4 pure strategies. And remember, a pure strategy is any strategy in which you go, or that you go into, that you can't do better off by choosing a different strategy. You can't make yourself better off, you can't make yourself worse, or if you did change, you'd make yourself worse off, or maybe not better off at all. So there's 4 different choice sets in which you could choose a perfect strategy, and you wouldn't be better off, or you won't be worse off by choosing a different strategy. You won't be better off by choosing a different strategy, right? And a lot of people kind of got in on the perfect strategies or the pure strategies, but they got mixed up when it came to the mixed strategies. So mixed strategies also have the caveat or the definition that like you can't do better by choosing a different strategy if you invoke a mixed strategy. And so every one of these pure strategies, every pure strategy in general, is a mixed strategy. However, if you have all of these payoffs and you choose them at random, because you're never going to do better by not choosing any of the other ones, then you have an infinite number of mixed strategies. And so there are 4 pure strategies that are also mixed strategies, but then there's an infinite number of mixed strategies that you're able to do. I gave everyone 5 points on that one at the minimum, because I felt that it was like a confusing question. Maybe you got the perfect versus pure mixed up. So the minimum you could have gotten on that one is a 5. Number 6, I think everyone did pretty well with this. There's a few people who maybe got confused, but most of you can give me an example of a prisoner's dilemma. Number 7 is CEO pay too high. I think the majority of people got this one. There were a few students who mixed up the difference between giving me economic reasoning and giving me normative reasoning. And I was really looking for a positive response, something like what are the economics of this, and not how do you feel about this. And I think that was a source of contention for a couple of people. The last one was, or the extra credit problem, I didn't think it would be very difficult, but it seemed that people didn't quite get there, or maybe missed some sections of the book. So just because something is priceless doesn't mean that it's worthless or valueless. It's hard to determine a price on it. And I think that ended up being a red herring for people, even though it wasn't meant to be. And then so people started answering, well, like in certain auctions, there's more information than other auctions, and so we use common and private values. Unfortunately, like if it's priceless, the common value is hard to determine anyway. And then like you can't determine other people's private values except through auctions. So, and a lot of people just like got off onto this tangent, which they weren't. I didn't expect people to get on that tangent. What I expected everyone to say, and what the right answer is that every single auction that we studied has the same expected seller revenue because of the revenue equivalence theorem. So it didn't matter which auction you chose. In fact, you should be impartial between choosing all auctions. And that was the right answer, because the revenue equivalence theorem says that all auctions are equivalent. There is one important caveat to that, and that is in the real world, the Dutch auctions tend to have higher seller revenues than other auctions. And it's not like much larger, and it's not all the time, but just occasionally they'll have higher revenues. And so if you told me that the revenue equivalence theorem said that all auctions had the same revenue, so it didn't matter which one you choose, I gave you full credit. If you told me that the Dutch auction, if you chose the Dutch auction, I gave you half credit for this question. overall, I think everyone did pretty great. I was like well pleased with the results and the answers that I got. Like I said, all of the tests should be back in your inboxes. If you have any more questions or any questions about the test, you can email me. I hope to be posting a couple more videos this week on chapters 1 and chapter 2 of managerial dilemmas. I posted the notes for chapter 2 last week on Blackboard. Maybe I do both Blackboard and send them out in email because I know some people are having trouble accessing Blackboard. Like I said, if there's any other questions you have, just email me. Bye.